call to order the City of Beaumont Planning Commission meeting.
At what time did you call it on, sir?
6 p.m.
Thank you.
by my clock.
Okay, roll call, Chairman Voss,
Here.
Vice Chairman St. Martin,
Here.
Commissioner Smith is absent, Commissioner Tinker,
Here.
and Commissioner Barr.
Here. Please join me for the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Rebecca, any adjustments or changes?
Yes, I do have one adjustment. I would like to have an introduction before we move on. I wanted to introduce you to Christine. She is our Assistant City Manager.
Okay.
And so I wanted to have you all meet her, and she wants to say hi.
Please come on up.
What if I don't want to?
State your name and address.
Not stating the address. I don't want anyone to know. I just wanted to say hi to you guys. I work with your community development staff and the engineering staff are both under my direction with the city manager, and so I work also with your legal staff as we prepare things to come forward to you. And so happy to be here. I've been here about 4 months now, so I'm really starting to understand all the acronyms finally. There are several of them in California. I came from Texas, so a little bit different. So.
Well, thank you for introducing yourself.
Absolutely. They don't have a TIQA in Texas?
we have a TCEQ, which is our state environmental quality. But yeah, very similar planning practices. Very similar engineering. We just call things differently there. So, like I said, I'm learning all the acronyms. The first month I sat and went, stop again, what was that? So, anyway, just wanted to say hi. And, I can stay up with your agendas. And if I need to be here, if you need me, I'm happy to be available for you guys.
Great, thank
Okay?
you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anything else?
That's all I have.
Okay, thanks. Any one person may address the Planning Commission on any matter not on this agenda. If you wish to speak, please fill out a public comment form provided at the back table and give it to the city clerk. There's a 3-minute time limit on public comments. There will be no sharing or passing of time to another person. State law prohibits the commission from discussing or taking actions brought up by your comments. All right, item number 1, Sundance Specific Plan Amendment 3.
Thank you, Commission. This application is a proposed series of entitlement actions to further facilitate the development of the Sundance Specific Plan area. The subject site is generally located west of Highland Springs Avenue, south of Brookside Avenue, and north of 8th Street. I went over the basics at the last meeting. It dealt with the original Deutsch Specific Plan and the amendments up until this application. This application includes a change to Planning Area 13 from institutional school site to high-density residential land use for the proposed 90 dwelling units. PA 13 is proposed to decrease in size and area adjacent to PA 14 open space basin, which will increase in area. And PA 53 is created for the proposed Cherry Valley Water District well site, which used to be part of PA 13. Additional changes include Planning Area 47 from very low density to low density 6,000 square feet residential land use, increasing the anticipated number of dwelling units by 44 units. And Planning Area 54, which is the former Chavez school site, to the Sundance Specific Plan with a low density 7,000 residential. Planning Area 54 is proposed with 31 single family residential units on 8 acres. Additional changes in the planning areas include addition of a discussion regarding Beaumont Cherry Valley District well sites, regulations for accessory dwelling units, update to residential development standards for rear yard accessory stepbacks, and residential development standards for PA 30, 31, 33, and 34, which is their Altus active adult community. The additional changes we have made since our last meeting include the creation of Planning Area 13B, an update to page 3-29, which is clarifying the installation regarding reclaimed water pipes, and an update to Exhibit 9, the water backbone system, which clarifying the exhibit is for pipelines and not actual water. These maps include track map 37426. This is a proposed to subdivide 11.15 acres into 90 single-family lots. Let me pull that up. This includes one well site, one open space park, and one drainage lot, and 5 landscaping lots with 3 public street lots. I apologize, this did have the previous description. As you can see from the last change, we no longer have that 3rd public street in the southern boundary, and we have changed it to 3. Regarding the concerns we had for the units that were fronting 8th Street, Pardee has updated the map and specific plan to remove the proposed street off of 8th Street and reduce the number of lots to 3 lots fronting 8th Street with a landscape lot that would be maintained by the HOA. So that was one of the changes that was made from the last map you had to the present map you received. These are a residential design of a courtyard type housing, which is subject to planning commission approval with plot plan approval. With regards to project landscaping, under this proposal, the applicant will be required to adhere to the standards set forth in our zoning ordinance. The next track map is 37428. This is to propose to subdivide approximately 38.18 acres into 138 single-family residential lots, which range in size from 6,475 single-family lots square feet to 17,146 square feet, 3 open space lots and 8 public street lots. This is a remapping of a previous final map, which was 31469-5. And which originally had 97 single-family residential lots with a minimum average lot size of 10,000 square feet. This map was updated from our April 10th meeting to show the correct lot sizes in the title block. We found out that some of the lot sizes on the side, the table on the side here in the corner did not have matching square feet, so it was updated to be correct. Track map 37427 has no proposed changes from our last discussion. It is proposed to subdivide 8.14 acres into 31 single-family residential lots, raising inside from 7,007 square feet to 15,221 square feet. Has 1 landscape lot, 1 detention basin lot, and 3 public street lots. The site was previously the Chavez Elementary School, which has been closed since around 2008-2009. The Beaumont Unified School District has determined the site is no longer suitable as a school site. If approved, the applicant would be required to submit my minor plot plan for both tract maps and for all proposed residential projects to have 4-sided architectural buildings with trim around the opening, as well as enhanced features on side facing roads, open space, and other areas as deemed appropriate. We went over the discussion in terms of the environmental documentation. There is a proposed addendum to the Deutsch/Sundance Specific Plan Environmental Impact Report for this specific plan amendment number 3. It has been prepared in accordance with the California Environmental Quality Act and the CEQA guidelines. There are findings listed in the staff report that are required in order for Planning Commission to recommend approval of these tract maps, and they are listed. And with that, we have a recommendation that you take testimony as the public hearing is already open, and recommend to City Council approval of the Sundance Specific Plan Amendment number 3 and EIR Addendum number 3, subject to the conditions. Recommend to City Council approval of tract map 37426 based upon the findings and subject to the conditions. And recommend to City Council approval of tract map 37428 based on the findings subject to the conditions. And lastly, recommend to City Council approval of track map 37427 based upon the findings and subject to the attached conditions of approval. We do have Party Homes here to give you a thorough presentation on their proposal. And if you'd like to have that presentation first, or whether you'd like to hear from comments first, it is up to your discretion, Chairman.
I'm sorry, Bob.
I don't know that I need to see their presentation, but I have some questions on each one of these proposals, Mr. Chairman.
Go ahead, ask your questions first.
Okay, on 37426, I have a concern with the length of the, basically the roadway, the cul-de-sacs. That's a long dead-end road. There doesn't appear to be any escape value on the end. So with that being high density in there for those apartment or that kind of concept, we have an issue midway in the block. How are these people going to get out of there?
Yes, please.
Good evening. Thank you, Rebecca, members of the commission. Jeff Chambers with Party Homes. We looked at track 37426. I understand your concern. We have worked with the city and with the fire department to make certain that everything was safe, and we believe it will work out just fine. We have other developments that have somewhat similar situation in Lake Elsinore, and we believe it's a safe condition and it will work in the event of an emergency.
I'm sorry, no offense, but I don't care what you have in Lake Elsinore. I don't see this working. That cul-de-sac is way too long and there's no escape on the end. So if we have an issue with something midways, where are those folks gonna go?
How many units are in each cul-de-sac? That'd be like 45 per? There's 90 total?
Yeah, each side of the street is 42.
So I think that would just add to your concern that it's even, being that it's high density as well.
Yeah.
One thing if those were single-family homes, but the
Yeah.
fact that there's 42 on the cul-de-sac, it makes it even more difficult.
Yeah, that's what bothers me. I don't see any way out of there. If there's an issue, we can't get those people out of there.
The reason we came up with this approach, a lot of people in the community at the city had asked about a more affordable project. And so we tried to do this type of cluster product to address the concerns and come in to the community with a more affordable project. When we say high density, these are detached houses that are close to each other. If you're familiar with the cluster product, it's done in a number of different locations. I've never heard of a problem in anywhere in Southern California where there's been a trap situation. It is a standard size street.
Well, then
We
maybe
don't-
I ought to reference you back to the Thomas fire, the Rye fire, and those other fires last year. There were people in long distance in this type of situation that got trapped. So let's not talk about what you haven't heard, because that's a matter of fact. I'm telling you, and I don't like it. I don't like these people. There's no way out of there. They're trapped if something happens. And given the wind conditions in this pass and our fire history, I am not comfortable with this. Not at all.
There is a proposed park on the southern end. One option could be to have it have like a rolled curb if needed, so that they could cross through the park in an emergency, because it is an open space. That middle connecting between the two cul-de-sacs is not a home. It's not blocked. It is a park area on the bottom. So we could create a rolled curb that if you had to drive over the park in an emergency, a real emergency, you'd have a way to get out.
Well, that would satisfy me, but right now I don't see that. And giving our weather conditions, especially with the fire conditions that we have in the past, as far as I'm concerned, the people in Midway in here they have no way out. And I'm not comfortable with it. So Rebecca, if you can come out with another way where they can drive over into a
Yeah,
park or
we
escape
could-
into a park.
We could have you guys, and as part of this, could add the condition that the park have an emergency access, vehicular access.
This is great. Yeah, that's the easement there. Well, something, I'm.
Yeah, as you can see, this is a park right here, so, and a sewer easement, so we could,
Yeah, I was gonna make a similar suggestion that we could link that for emergency purposes where people could come to the end of the cul-de-sac and escape out. When you look at the site as a whole, it is brought up, and so getting access directly off to the street to the east is problematic because of the slope. And the same situation going towards 8th Street, there's a slope condition there that makes it would make it next to impossible in order to get a street to go down there.
I'm not asking you for to put another street in there. I'm asking you to be able to have an easement or access so those people can get out of there.
No, I understand, and that's why I think what Rebecca suggested up here is we can create an emergency drive approach between the two cul-de-sacs. So if there was an event up in the middle somewhere that, like you said, if people couldn't drive out that way, they could come this way and go out that way.
And I'd be comfortable with that.
Okay, we can accommodate that. I understand your concern. Last thing I'm gonna do is go against fire. So we thought we were good. We didn't really think about that candidly. But if that would make you more inclined to go with the project, we're happy to do that. We could put, we can do turf block down there and create a driveway.
Yeah, I would be fine with that. I just want to eliminate the entrapment capability.
Okay.
You know, if we can make that part of a condition,
yeah, so far I propose based on what you hear, I hear added condition 6.10, the park shall have emergency vehicular access between the two cul-de-sac locations.
and I'm okay with that.
Okay.
I
I think it's a good suggestion. Fortunately, we don't have a pool proposed down there.
Yeah, and I'm okay with this, because if they can come out of the end of the cul-de-sac, if they get trapped in the middle, because, you know, given our conditions, and especially if we get a working structure fire in there with our winds,
I know.
and if they can come across drivable and get out the other end, I'm okay with that.
Okay.
Other questions?
Yeah, I still see them, regardless of whether you get around that cul-de-sac and then go down on the other side, I don't know how they're gonna get out of there. I can't see it. What's that dark area right below the park?
A slope.
It's a slope.
It's a slope.
Yeah, so where are they gonna go?
I think, if I can, I think the idea is if there's something blocking here, these people can go out, is what we're trying to refer to.
And I'm okay with that.
So if there's something that's. It doesn't work on the screen. Doesn't show up on the screen. It's too reflective.
You know,
Yeah.
to me, if they're on Blue Orchard, for example, and midway in the block, and we have a large structure go up, they can come down to the end of the cul-de-sac and go across in that turf block area and go out the other
Right.
Bluebell Way. That's an escape, and I'm happy with that. I'm okay with that.
From a distance standpoint, I think if there was an emergency, and this would not work for cars, but if there was an emergency and people had to get out, this was a former junior high school site proposed by Beaumont School District. And so we're adding an extra 10 acres of open space and park here on this area. And if there was an emergency, they can walk out that way. They could come down this way. They could go down the slope. I mean, there are different ways. The distance of potential entrapment isn't that far of a distance. And so I think the walkability to exit in the event of emergency is very good.
Walkability is not good when you got smoke and fire laying on top of you and the panic factor.
Understood.
People they're headed for their cars.
Right.
It's.
And that's why I think having the drive approach between the cul-de-sacs really helps.
Yeah. I don't have a problem. You know, Northern California last year was a prime example. People went to their cars, but those that tried to hoof it out died because they were panicked. This way they can get in their cars, and if they know they can go across to the next street and get out, I think it's a life-saving factor.
Okay.
Paul?
I'm not comfortable with it, but
And
you're looking to increase the density of this area. Have you reduced the number of dwelling units in another area because you have a maximum that was approved back in 2006, I believe?
Correct.
And by increasing the density, are you increasing the number of dwelling units?
No, I had a prepared presentation, which I guess I won't go through, but originally, 37 years ago in 1991, is when Sundance started its entitlement process, and it was approved at the time for, is it 4,716 dwelling units, and that was approved back in 1991. We reduced that to 4,450, and we're currently proposing with these additions to be at a unit count of 4,411. So we've stayed underneath the maximum number of units, and thus the impacts to the community have been, we've stayed under that unit count for that specific purpose.
The total units in the 2006 amendment was how many less than this? Is this an increase of?
No,
what,
this is a
100?
This is
decrease.
decrease.
It goes from 4,450 to 4,411.
I understand the total allowed was 4,450, but we've added Area 13. We've added the former Chavez site, and we've increased the density on, forgive me, I don't have the exact number in front of me, on the one on the northwest corner. So while we're still under the maximum, it seems like we have increased from previous amendments. I don't see where we've reduced the amount of homes, but we've added homes in different areas and changed and increased the density in certain areas.
correct, as engineering has worked out, as units have been reduced in other planning areas, it gets updated with the amendment to show the total count. They haven't, it wouldn't require necessarily a specific plan amendment to grade or to when their track map has less units than what the planning area calls for. So it has changed over the different amendments over the years, but we are still under the maximum allowed units of 4,450.
Is it an increase over the 2006 or 2003?
No.
2006, no. And definitely the previous one, it was even higher, like you said, 4,700.
May I say that this is the third time where a school site was given up and it was changed to residential. So we've done this in the past in other situations going back to when we started developing in the late 1990s.
What's being done to mitigate the traffic conditions on Highland Springs and the other north-south or east-west routes?
On 8th Street?
Not only, on Highland Springs, on Oak Valley Parkway, and on Cherry Valley Boulevard. The mornings and evenings are a disaster getting through those areas. The backup at the freeway is out of control. And it's all three areas. So your project is here, but you're affecting areas on the other side of the city. I was coming from Second Street Marketplace on Pennsylvania, and it took me 3 light cycles to get onto 6th Street. That's how bad the traffic is getting. So what's being done to mitigate that, to handle the additional houses that you're proposing?
If I may, I apologize, when I gave my staff report, I had handed you some updated conditions and I didn't go over them. If I can go over them really quick, I can also touch on the conditions that relate to traffic as well during that discussion. So you received updated conditions for all of the track maps as well as the specific plan. The track maps 2.3 through 2.5 were removed. These were the requirements for the street improvements. They were moved to the specific plan so that it wasn't tied to one single map, but tied to this specific plan amendment, and I'll go over those in a second. Additionally, the requirements on Cherry Avenue that were originally 2.9 through 210 were removed. This was not a direct relation to this map. It is a condition on another map, and Public Works had included in here from looking at a previous map, and it shouldn't have carried over into this map. So your proposed new conditions have the 2.9 and 210 from your original packet removed. 2.8 has been clarified from a full repavement because they only are required for the half width just to do a overlay on 8th Street. And the 3.5 was updated to show the new sewer lots with the change to the 3 lots to show the sewer easement on lots 23 and 24. I'm sorry, is now 20 and 21. So your updated conditions show that. And we removed 3.6 as there is no longer a road off of 8th Street. And that was changed on all of the maps. So the main one that was moved over, as I said, to the specific plan, you'll see there is a Public Works conditions of approval for this specific plan amendment. It includes that the developer is responsible for paying for the transportation uniform mitigation fee as part of constructing new residential. And we are working with them through their fair share and agreements for I-10 Oak Valley Parkway interchange improvements, as well as I-10 Pennsylvania improvements from 1st to 6th. And the last one shows
Oak Valley in the 10?
Oak Valley. I said Oak Valley. I-10 and Oak Valley.
Pennsylvania,
Oak Valley and Pennsylvania.
and the Petro interchange.
Okay. So they are working with us to do TUMP agreements so that they put in the money and do the work. And we're working on receiving additional TUMP funds for those major interchange improvements. So it is conditioned here that they work specifically on those interchanges to help with that traffic impact.
And the time frame on that?
It's a condition of the specific plan. There's not a specific time frame. There may be in the agreements that went to council, but I'm not 100% sure. I'd refer to the applicant. And then the last change, I apologize, under the planning conditions for tentative track 37428, condition 5.14 mentioned 37427, and that has been corrected to 37428 so that the numbers match the map it goes with. But
Yeah, we've
can
entered
touch on
into an agreement with the city whereby we've agreed to fund almost $30 million for major traffic improvements over the next 5 years. And we've executed agreements for doing work at Pennsylvania Avenue, the undercrossing and extending the roadway there. And we've entered into an agreement to fund the balance of the engineering for the second phase of the Petro interchange. And we've also been working with staff, and we've agreed to do work at Oak Valley in the 10. And we've been working on Highland Springs in the 10 for a number of years. We have several alternatives in conjunction with our project in Banning. We're trying to do a hook ramp to the east, close down Joshua Palmer, and make that a more workable interchange system. That's going to take several more years before any work can get started. It is a Caltrans improvement. But we have an agreement with the city of Banning, and we've been working with the city of Beaumont on that. I know that Beaumont has funded $2 million to WRCOG as part of the settlement that goes specifically into that interchange improvement. So that's the contribution of our TUMF component for Highland Springs and the 10. So there's a lot of regional improvements that we are in the process of making better, understanding the concern of the traffic. Something important, I think, to note is that in the original EIR, there was anticipated traffic growth. We're not the only person or the only entity entering into development in the city of Beaumont. Our impacts have been properly addressed through our environmental impact report and our specific plan, and we're doing what we can to mitigate those intersections. And I think, you know, with the agreement that we reached on payment of the TUMF, instead of just paying into the TUMF program, we're actually doing specific improvements. And like I said, we've committed almost $30 million to expend over the next 5 years for those improvements.
Yeah, we were discussing the development of the 10 Highland Springs area when I was on council in 2010. And here we are, 2018, and we still haven't, nothing's happened there. So, and I know you have to work with Caltrans. Caltrans is the elephant in the room there.
And the city of Banning, we have to coordinate. I'm not saying they're the elephant in the room, but we are working with the city of Banning as well. And as you most likely know, we do have a 4,000 plus unit development on the other side of Highland Springs that
Right.
is making its way through the process of pre-construction and development. And so there's requirements to improve that as well. And we hope that in the next several years that there will be real work done. I was told recently that Beaumont has taken over the timing of the various signals at the Highland Springs 10 intersection, and that the city of Beaumont now controls that. I know Mike Taylor's here and he could explain in a little more detail on that, but there was a lot of work went into synchronization of those signals. Unfortunately, the box was controlled by Banning, Caltrans, and Beaumont, and once it was all synchronized and it was working fairly well a few years ago, then it went askew because people were complaining and it got out of sync. So now Beaumont controls the box and the synchronization. Hopefully it's working a little bit better, but I can't, you would know better than I.
Yeah, it's not working any better at all.
Well, there was also an issue, if I'm not mistaken, and I'm not trying to put you on the spot, but I'm familiar with things coming out of the city of Banning, that at one point, Beaumont and Caltrans were trying to sync the signals, and Banning pretty much didn't want to participate. So now that Beaumont's taken over the program, it probably should get better.
It should.
I'm not asking you to badmouth anybody. I'm just telling you that.
No, I'm going to defer to Mike Taylor. He knows more than I do.
Hi. So just a little history on that one. So, oh my gosh, it's been 5 to 6 years maybe. All the equipment has been changed in all the signals along the corridor there from 8th Street all the way down to Sun Lakes Boulevard. So it is now possible to adjust all the timing on every one of those signals. As Jeff mentioned, it's 3 entities that controlled those. They were all 100% synchronized at one time between all 3 agencies. And I can tell you the story. You had complaints at the shopping center on the Beaumont side about how long it took for people to make a left turn out of the shopping onto Highland Springs and go north. Those complaints that came to this council caused this city to change the timing to speed that up, which I know it's very difficult through that corridor. The improvements ultimately that are being worked on right now, as Jeff mentioned, with Caltrans and the city of Banning and Beaumont will ultimately improve that. So I'm going to give you a quick summary of what those are. As you know, Joshua Palmer, where the Denny's restaurant is, causes a lot of problems for a lot of people. There's trucks that make big U-turns at a bad intersection. there's an uncontrolled intersection where people pull out of the Shell station in Beaumont and they don't realize there's no signal there. They turn right out of that, and other people are turning left. It's a really bad, dangerous situation. It's been that way for years. So the plan is to close down Joshua Palmer in its present location. It will be relocated north to the Food for Less driveway. The signal will be moved from that location up even with the Food for Less driveway. That will become a new Joshua Palmer that goes all the way down to the Hampton Inn. And then there'll be a right turn that will take you back to the old Joshua Palmer. Now, ultimately, our hope is with Caltrans, that will be how the new interchange is going to work. Residents that live in Sun Lakes or Cahovnanian that are coming north on Highland Springs and want to go to Riverside, they won't have to stack turning left underneath the freeway and wait and back that up. They'll be able to drive straight through, go to Joshua Palmer, turn right, go down to the Hampton Inn, and get on a brand new on-ramp. And there'll probably be a need to be a bridge, an extra lane of the bridge, but they won't have to blow that entire bridge up and widen it out to have a whole bunch of extra lanes under there. So I don't want you to think nobody's I understand Commissioner St. Martin's. I remember all these discussions a decade ago about what was happening.
Yeah.
There is a lot of progress has been made. All those street improvement plans for the new Joshua Palmer are 100% done and approved in Banning. And the city of Banning, we would spend the money today. There are some private property owners, and there's some right-of-way dedications that have to take place. And the city's hoping over there not to go through eminent domain to get those right-of-ways, or that road would have been built probably 3 or 4 years ago. But you had a couple of property owners that have vacant land along there. The farmhouse, the Chevron, and the Denny's, they were all on board, ready to they're basically swapping properties. They're going to get the old Joshua Palmer. They're giving up that dirt right away back there. So I believe we are much closer to having a solution to go ahead and get that work done. Just to give you an idea, picture in your mind of what ultimately happens on Highland Springs. Highland Springs is a 2-lane in each direction with about a 10 or 12 foot planted median. So when we came to town all these years ago, there were 40 feet of pavement out there, old, probably 3 inches on native dirt out there. It's been there for 50 plus years. We are adding 12 feet of pavement right now to the Beaumont side of the street. Then we had the WRCOG situation with Beaumont and being out of it. That is, by the way, a WRCOG improvement. So the Beaumont going out of the TUMF program caused a big calamity in how to actually get that. Now they're back in. We're moving forward on that. We've added 12 feet. If you can imagine what's out there now, the center line, each pavement section is 32 feet of pavement, a 10-foot median, and another 32 feet of pavement. But because that flood control ditch out there, the whole median is going to be in the city of Banning, because that's where the city boundary line is. And you can't really center the road because of that flood control ditch. So ultimately what you'll see out there at 8th Street and Wilson and Highland Springs going north, you're going to see 4 lanes of traffic, probably neck down to a turn lane, so you can turn onto Wilson, or you can make turns, but there will be a planted median going north all the way up, and turn pockets for people to turn into all the work. So I think the goal is to get the 32 feet of pavement resurfaced from 8th Street all the way up to Brookside. And then hopefully, with coordination between 2 cities, move all the traffic onto that new pavement out there, and then ultimately build a median and the other 32 feet of pavement, which is a big job. It's 2 miles long, so it's a lot of work. But I think I just wanted you to hear, and other people in the room that might go, yeah, I'm wondering what's happening with that. All those plans are in the works and done. I mean, we could build the entire, section, but it takes the coordination of both agencies, because at some point, all the traffic needs to be in your city, up and down, while we're building the other side in the other city. Because it has to be a phased, construction as you build that. And everything on the Banning side has to also be blessed and gone through at WRCOG for us to build it. But those agreements are actually in process, in the process of actually getting agreements signed so we can do the work. The way it has to work on TUMP improvements for a developer to build any of that, we can't build it without a signed agreement between Banning and WRCOG and Part E for us to actually build that TUMP improvement and get, which was the big problem of all the other improvements that didn't follow the process back in the day. So we will be building all those road improvements, and you'll start to see those really actually start to happen out there. So I hear your concerns about the traffic, and I wanted to make sure we're not here to just build without building these improvements. And as Jeff said, you're going to see us building the city's improvement at Pennsylvania. We're actually taking, with our agreement with the city, we're acting as the general contractor on the city's behalf to build that improvement that really it's not associated with the Sundance. It's more of a city regional improvement. And we were going to be spending money doing improvements at Oak Valley, but the city requested that our dollars be spent for the second phase of that design improvement at Potrero. So that's why our other dollars,
We need to fix that.
our dollars are going to design the second piece of that Potrero interchange. So every one of these new units, by the way, pays into that fund to keep doing more and more of those TUMP improvements here in the city.
Yes, please.
One question I have is on South Highland Springs, there's a left-hand turn pocket that goes into the mobile station there. My understanding is that somewhere along the line, they talked about shutting down that left-hand turn pocket.
As you're
That was-
coming,
Yeah.
and I believe it appears that it is temporarily closed. That's south of the freeway, right?
That's
The
right,
one
southbound South Highland
that
Springs.
turns.
Was that for a study to see what the traffic?
I
think we discussed that at.
It's my understanding that they did that to test to see
Yes.
what would happen
That's what I heard too.
if that was done. I don't know kind of the outcome of that, but I think the idea was
It was done by the city of Beaumont.
Yes.
No, I understand that. I know that because I was on the capital improvement program committee. We were talking about shutting down that left-hand turn pocket.
And I think
to
right
increase
now,
the flow.
it is closed to do the study, to see every time you do one of these improvements, you have to have a traffic study and a warrant
Okay.
and all that. So the last time I drove by it, I think it was closed
It
and you
is
couldn't
closed.
do that, and they're taking traffic counts or whatever.
I try not to go South Highland Springs. I was just curious.
Please, most of you guys know we've been here since the early 2000s. We're going to be here doing these improvements. When you get dealing with multiple agencies and especially Caltrans, trying to get them to buy off on a design of the improvement, we're spending the money. If they tell you tomorrow, here, you can build it that way, we'd be out there building it tomorrow. So the development dollars from our project, they are paying for these improvements, and we're not just turning the money over and say, oh, good luck, I hope you guys can build. We've already agreed with the city that we're actually managing and being the general contractor on the city's behalf to build this stuff with their dollars. So things will get built. So,
Commissioners, do we have any other questions of the applicant?
No.
Okay.
Wait a minute,
So
Yes.
do we want to open it up to?
I do on,
One more.
can we go to 37428? Is that okay?
Absolutely.
The only comment I have on 37428 is, and I know where the corner is right there, but the thing that concerns me and is on the west side of the street on Cherry and on the north side of Brookside right there, in that specific section, that's all low income or low density, large acreage properties in there. And you haven't violated anything. I just don't like it. In fact, I think we're standing there across the street, basically thumbing our nose at them. When I think in that corner, we should have been more compatible to the Cherry Valley needs, and run this program with low density, large acreage lots in there. Just my opinion, okay? Because in that specific corner, we're sitting right there at Cherry Valley, and we're basically thumbing our nose at Cherry Valley, and I'm not comfortable with that. That's my only comment.
Okay. I'd like to open it up for the public comment period.
I have Mary Daniel.
Thank you. I'm wondering when it is time to say enough is enough. I say it's today, to tell this developer they have had enough concessions. They need to look around. They won't see any of those people who used to tell them that they could get whatever they asked for. Those people are long gone. They confessed to criminal acts and are no longer in control of what happens in Beaumont. That is now your responsibility, along with the city council. So instead of decisions being based on personal gain or developer greed, the decisions now should be based on the good of the whole community. And community means the people who already live here, not developers. Even if the city of Beaumont is required to comply with the development agreement, there is nothing that says they have to change the densities or allow any more houses than were originally agreed to. In fact, this developer needs to be told that they are also required to abide by those approved agreements. So add the abandoned school sites back into the development plan, but give them the low to medium density of the adjacent areas. Or an even better solution, I think, is make them public parks. All other densities for the specific plan should remain as they were originally approved. Those very low densities already mentioned on the corner of Brookside and Cherry. They were there for a specific reason, to keep the urban development of Beaumont from overwhelming those people who live right across the street in Cherry Valley and favor a rural lifestyle. Those already approved densities should just continue as they were. However, the most important reason to stay with the already approved specific plan is that back in the 90s, when developers were being enticed to come to Beaumont because of the Mello-Roos scheme, the infrastructure that had been promised to the citizens was never actually built. None of what was promised was done. The sewer plant is nearing capacity. It was supposed to be expanded to 6 by 1993 at the latest. Our water situation is dire. The Beaumont Basin has been in overdraft for many years, and it seems that recycled water is another one of those urban myths that we will never see happen. Our roads have not kept up with the traffic demands, as already mentioned. Anyone who travels Highland Springs knows what a nightmare that road is. Now, I'm sure that developers don't really care about any of this. After all, they pay their fair share for the infrastructure, and whether it gets built or not is not their concern, but it is your concern. And adding more and more development when the infrastructure is not there is very poor planning indeed. Believe me, this chronic lack of planning, the infrastructure has affected the quality of life for everyone who already lives here, and I ask you to show your commitment to good planning decisions and enforce the specific plan that this developer has already agreed to, and allow no more amendments. Really, enough is enough. Thank you.
Thank you.
Stacy Sasso. Say go. Sorry.
Thursday, I'm done. I can't write after. Wow. I'm scribbled. I said a lot last week. Mary kind of reiterated what I felt last night. I would say a loss for words, but I'm not ever been accused of that. I can't believe that this is the same conversation it seems that's being going on. Nothing has been done. Nothing is being established. All we do is hear from people that just want to overpopulate this area without giving us an infrastructure first. To me, we've been victimized enough, those of us in this city, and to overpopulate it more by bowing down to Pardee is just adding the list of being, I'm victimized, and that's exactly how I feel. As far as the water goes, all the lovely homes at the top of Highland Springs, they have a lovely swimming pool. Where'd that water come from? Where's the water going for all of these homes? I lost over $1,000 in landscaping last year that I still don't have the money to replace because I was put on rationing. Can't wash my car. So the car wash prices went up. I'm done. You can ration me, you can fine me. I'm going to wash my car and I'm going to water my lawn because I can't afford to replace it anymore. So I'm not going to play that game anymore. I don't understand about all the environmental impact. I'm sure the report says just what you all want it to say. After hearing Pardee speak, to me it's just clear they're in it for the money. I live in a Pardee home. All of the things that are nice and pretty on the homes, it'll fall apart in about 10 years, trust me. It's just not logical that you're allowing or you would consider to allow this to happen when there's no infrastructure already in place. And I think we pretty much said all of that last year. This just doesn't make any sense that you're bowing down to someone like Pardee, who, when they build, every square inch of green grass with some kind of house will be long gone, and we're left to clean up the mess. Apparently, we're still trying to clean up, or you all are still trying to figure out how to clean up the mess from the last go-round with them. So like Mary said, I think enough is enough, and I'm tired of cleaning up other people's messes. Thank you.
Thank you.
We don't have any other slips. Would anyone else? If you can, when you're done, if you could please fill out a slip. Thank you.
Sure. Good evening. My name is Robin Porter. I'm a 15-year resident here in Beaumont in the Sundance community. My concern with building these additional dwellings, including condos, is that they are being built before appropriate accommodations are in place first. It should take place, or I should say it should be the other way around. The plan to modify roads and highways should take place first before constructing these additional units to give safeguards for safety and adequate traveling space for traffic as new residences move into these dwellings. What has been happening is as more and more residences move in, traffic and safety issues increase. Yet even though it is on record that roads are to be modified for the new construction already built, it hasn't taken place. I'd like to know, when will it take place? If Pardee wants to build additional dwellings, they should first put appropriate accommodations in place. And when that is done, then they can move forward in actually building these additional dwellings. It should also be considered the stress that will be put on the services our community depend on, like policemen, the fire department, and the hospital. Having an increase of dwellings will mean having to have an increase in these services. And who do you think will be paying for these increases? We will, the people within this community. Do you think Pardee considered this? Do you think they care? Probably not. But we do. And we say no to their plans to bring increased problems to the community of Beaumont. I just want to say that I ask that you not approve these additional dwellings unless it is stipulated that accommodations for the extra population is put in place first, and the amount of dwellings proposed be decreased to 50%. And thank you for listening to my concerns.
Thank you. So before we get to any motions, I just want to clarify something. When I asked about the number of units being increased, if I go to page 3.5, section 3 development plan, the previous number, which was redlined out, was 4,252. The new one is 4,414.
That's correct, from the last amendment.
So there is an increase compared to
Not
last
from-
amendment.
Yes, but not from the 2004 specific plan.
But there is an increase compared to the last approved amendment.
Correct.
Of roughly, what is that, 160 roughly homes?
That's correct.
Ballpark? Okay.
And if you want to close the public hearing before you
Yes, thank you.
make a motion.
I'll close the public hearing at 6:56. So a couple thoughts that I had on this. I think back to the No Way Gateway and what the citizens wanted versus what the county approved. And I think back in Fairway, we had a proposed school site that ended up being houses. The residents were very much against it. I think part of our job as commissioners is to represent the citizens. And I think there are ways, as we look at the documents, that I guess a justification for some of these things. When I look at the new proposed general plan, one of the values that the citizens talk about is responsible and measured growth. It talks about Beaumont values a good balance of homes, jobs, etc. Finally, it says, while ensuring that the population growth does not outpace existing infrastructure capacity. Another one of the values that was discussed then was a small town atmosphere. Beaumont values its small town atmosphere with distinct neighborhoods and historic areas. I think when we look at what the public said in the last meeting, their sentiment, compare that to the general plan, it seems to me that this isn't necessarily what the public wants or in the public's best interest. So that's for your consideration before any possible motions.
Yeah, I've been ruing over this for a week and a half. And the easy way out is to approve it. But I don't know if it's the right way out. I live in the city. I have to deal with the issues that are, and it's not all Sundance. I mean, there's other developers in here that are creating the problem, but we still have to deal with the problems. And I think the problems need to be dealt with a little sooner rather than later. That's my opinion.
Any other comments?
It's interesting because usually Commissioner St. Martin and I are usually on the opposite sides of the street on most things, but I happen to agree with him. I don't have anything against, and I resent the fact that people say that we're in bed with Part E, which is not the truth. But I agree with you, Chairman, that I think we need to take a step back. There's some well-noted concerns, and I think Commissioner St. Martin brought up on tonight, especially with the traffic concerns.
Right.
I don't think we can continue to approve additional developments without something happening here.
You know, one thing we didn't mention, I'm very concerned about having such a high-density planning area 13 right across from the school. You know, so where you've got, I believe it's Xenia running up 8th Street, and then you've got Sundance Elementary here, and then 90 homes. So we're talking about adding a couple hundred cars from here, you know, assuming that each unit's gonna have 2 cars. Talk about 200 cars right next to the elementary school. That concerns me. The biggest concern I have is the high density. Planning area 13 is definitely the one that I have the biggest concern with.
Yeah, and then we still have that commercial project going down on the corner of Highland Springs and 8th.
Right.
So there's going to be some issues with trying to move traffic through that general vicinity.
Right.
And the only other way to go is to go down Oak Valley Parkway, Cherry Valley Boulevard, and some of the, maybe 6th Street. And that's just going to congest everything along the way.
Right.
Well, I can tell you that in the mornings, I live on 12th Street, and there's about a 45-minute period you literally cannot get onto 12th Street because folks coming out of Three Rings, and they won't go up to Oak Valley Parkway because you can't get on Oak Valley Parkway. So I agree with the commissioner. I think we just need to put a slow on things and back off a little bit. And we got to fix some things. We can't keep adding to the problem without something being fixed here.
So just taking the temperature of the commissioners here, rather than waiting for a motion to approve, I'm going to guess that there will probably be a motion not to approve. What is the proper way to go about that? And please stop me if someone's going to make a motion to approve.
As it is your vote on this one is just a recommendation to the council. You would be able to change your recommendation to either approve with changes or recommend denial to city council would be your options.
So,
Yeah. If you may want to hear from Pardee again as the applicant to respond to some of your issues. We do want to make clear that there are requirements for findings for property owners. This is zoned, especially on the 2 sites that are single-family residential that were the school sites. They are have a general plan for single-family. So whether you approve it at this density or use, there are, there's an ability and a right of the property owner to move forward within the general plan requirements. But that doesn't necessarily mean you have to approve it, so I don't want to make that impression.
So let me ask a question right now. Are you saying that because the property owner has the right to do what they want to do, that we must approve it?
No, as I said, that is not correct. If you cannot make the findings listed, then you are able to recommend denial. What I'm trying to say is that doesn't prevent them from coming back with a different proposal that you don't have, that addresses your concerns or that meets the underlying density of the general plan on its own, and that you may not be able to make the same findings you're making now that you might have with high density.
So that was my comment earlier when we looked at finding number 1, is that it's consistent with applicable general and specific plans.
Yeah, and look at finding number 5 also, which deals with public health issues.
Yeah, and when we look at specific plans, just so you're aware, we look at the overall specific plan in terms of densities and accessories units. So we don't necessarily always look at each individual tract. We look at the whole specific plan, what is the overall density, and whether that density is meeting the general plan requirements of single family. So even though you may have high density in some areas, you have low density in others, which give you an average density. I believe it was 4.1 is the average density of the specific plan.
Okay, let me ask you a question here. If we decide to not approve or disapprove, but we decide to continue this, giving the developers understanding of our concerns, is that a better way to go, or should we just go ahead? Because I'm going to tell you right now, looking at this commission right now, it's not going to be approved. So should we just say forget it and it goes to council?
I haven't heard specific direction for continuance to have them come back with a new map. I haven't heard something that's it's specific enough that I think
let me just give you a couple of other things for consideration. You guys, everybody has their opinion, And, you know, I understand your concerns. There've been a lot of things happen over this, but this project now is nearing, what, 30 years old? The number of amendments, there's been like 3 amendments. Development plans change. If you look at large specific plans that are done all over Southern California, we've had very, very few amendments to the plan. So I want you to understand, we have designed the infrastructure to satisfy the absolute maximum number of units. So the ultimate design, not what's there today. So I want everybody to, I hear gasping in the back. I always get lots of misinformation. The ultimate design, pipe sizes, roadway widths, everything has been mitigated and designed to accommodate the absolute maximum number of dwelling units on top of 1, 2, 3, 4 other school sites. So think about this. You're asking us not, we're increasing the park space. That junior high site down there at the bottom that we're all talking about high density, we're developing half of it. The other half of that 22-acre junior high site is being dedicated as a community park space. It will be developed, and Part E will be spending several $1 million to develop that as a park space. So we're clustering the density. If you look at what's down on 8th Street and you really take a look at it, right across the street, far higher density. To think that we're putting very high density is not correct. We're putting a project on 11 acres that's about 8 units to the acre. Really, when you get down to it, it's actually not an extremely high dense they're detached condominiums. They are detached condominiums, almost identical to what you saw up at the Estrella and Cielo projects in the middle. So the density around 8th Street, not the actual houses that are on the north side of 8th Street, but the whole south side, there is a lot of high density multifamily development in that part of 8th Street, in that part of Beaumont. And we're not even building a townhome or an attached product. We're building 8 units to the acre and a very water efficient small lot development. The school sites use far more water. The traffic at that junior high site that would be generated if that were a junior high site, far more traffic impacts at the intersections down there. If that were a junior high site, we're taking the traffic actually back into Sundance and then out versus down on 8th Street or off on Xenia as the school plan would have been. So traffic, I think, you'll find if you really read the studies that the traffic impacts of these homes on that 11 acres or less, and that the actual balance of that property, we're increasing the park space in that community. Now, if you look at the old Chavez school site, the Chavez school site, again, if it is an operating school, uses far more water than the 6,000 the 60 by 115 foot lots would use in there. And again, those are some of the larger lots in Sundance. And, there's the concern about the water and the density. And I understand the larger lot, larger density. And you heard one of the comments about how much landscaping somebody lost. Those lots were 90 feet wide by 125 foot deep minimum pads. We're building a house next door on a 70 wide by 120. It's going to be open in 2 weeks, called Beacon. That property goes up to almost 4,500 square foot houses. There'll be a $500,000 high-end homes up there.
Mr. Taylor, I don't know that this is necessarily.
I'm trying to give you some perspective because the water usage, everybody's talking about water usage and the density. The exterior water usage.
That wasn't our concern. And and I don't mean to sound rude, but I think I don't think you're going to convince us.
Okay.
With what you're saying, right? It's not alleviating our concerns. And please, commissioners, if you want them to continue, let me know. But I don't feel like what you're saying is addressing our concerns, and I don't think it's going to change our recommendation.
I mean, I hear what you say about the community. There's 3 speakers here. There's 3 out of 45,000 homes?
Yeah, but you're.
45,000 residents.
Stop right there. We live in this community, you don't. So we not necessarily hear the people here, but we hear our constituents out in the supermarkets and on the street and the bus stop and all that.
Totally understand.
So don't insult.
Just remember too, I've been here 20 years.
Well, I've been here 40 years. So
I understand, but you act like I'm a developer.
You are.
I hear you guys come in that we're a developer who's come into town and we've just, I get a little bit offended that we haven't been a great community partner for this city.
I don't think any of us have said that by any means.
I heard a lot of comments about we giving things, just giving things to developers.
Did you hear that?
I'd like to make a comment at this point, which is that this conversation is not productive. It's not focused on the issues that this commission is intended to cover. We're kind of devolving into an argumentative and emotional sort of forum here, and I don't think that's helpful or appropriate. And so I would like to suggest that the Planning Commission members sort of back off, and I'd like to request that,
absolutely,
if you've made your comments, if you have any more, please make them briefly.
No, that's okay.
And then proceed to your seat. Thank you.
No, thank you.
Thank you.
Chairman, if I could. One thing that I'd like to point out, I know there's concerns about these new maps. One of the things that is involved in the specific plan amendment is the development regulations for the existing map for their Altus senior community. So if you guys don't have a concern with that portion of the specific plan amendment, my suggestion would be for you to motion the denial of the other changes to those 3 planning areas, if that's the way you're headed, but recommend approval of the Altus exhibit, which is Exhibit 11B for the setback standards and size standards that are updated in the specific plan. If you have, because it doesn't sound like you had any concerns with that piece of the specific plan amendment.
So real quick, as we look, the subject line is Sundance Specific Plan Amendment 3. Are we not being asked to approve Amendment 3, but we're only being asked to recommend on the specific tracks?
No, my suggestion is if you're opposed to the specific plan amendment 3 because it has these additions to add residential units where the school sites were and the change in the north for these 3 track maps, but you don't have any issues with the remaining piece of the specific plan amendment, then I'm trying to find out if that's the case. If that's the case, then my suggestion would be to recommend denial as it relates to these 3 planning areas, but approval of the remaining changes within the specific plan amendment. That would include the state-required changes to the accessory dwelling units. That would include the update to have the setbacks very clearly defined for Altus. We asked them to make that change and pull it out and put it in its own chart so that it was very clear for the new homeowners what their setbacks were and how it related, because their lots are mixed in a little bit differently.
So which track map is Altus?
Altus is not a track map that's for proposal. It's a change within the specific plan. So if you look at section, it is 3-
So if I'm looking at the recommendations, if we were to recommend to City Council approval of Sundance Specific Plan Amendment number 3, that would cover what you're talking about.
Yes, but it doesn't sound like you really wanted to do that based on your concerns with these maps, which relate to the density.
If we go to 37, 426, 428, 427, and we did not recommend approval on those, would that?
I think that would, Yes, but that would put you into a problem. I don't want to create you would be changing the density in the specific plan to allow for these maps with the specific plan amendment.
Gotcha.
So I want to make sure you're clear with that. The specific plan amendment includes changing the specific plan for planning area 13 to high density. And that sounds like you guys had a concern. So my suggestion is to recommend approval of the specific plan number 3 as it relates to everything but planning areas. Let me go back to my staff report. Planning areas 13, 47, and 54. And if you're, and then you're recommending approval of the remainder. That way it doesn't affect the other changes and updates in the code that don't relate to these 3 maps, if you don't want to move forward with them.
That sounds in line with what we're thinking, commissioners?
Yes.
Yes, yeah.
Okay, so I don't know how to make that motion.
Okay, so staff's new recommendation based on what they're hearing is to recommend that Planning Commission is recommending to the City Council approval of Sundance-specific plan amendment number 3 as to all changes except for recommending denial on the changes to planning area 13, 47, and 54, as well as recommending approval of the EIR addendum as that relates to just the changes in general. And so we wouldn't want to do one specific plan amendment without the environmental.
That makes sense, so.
I'll make a motion to whatever she said.
So moved, yes. So we have a motion by Commissioner Tinker
Second.
and a second by Commissioner Barr.
Okay, roll call. Commissioner Barr?
Yes.
Commissioner Tinker?
Yes.
Vice Chair St. Martin?
Yes.
And Chairman Voss?
Yes.
And then you're free to make the motions on the remaining 3 maps as you.
So I guess I'm confused. On these remaining 3 maps,
So now if you would like to make a motion to recommend denial to City Council, that is your option.
all right.
I'll move to recommend denial on those 3 maps, specifically PA 13, 47, and 54.
I'll second that.
I'm sorry. Roll call. Commissioner Barr?
Yes.
Commissioner Tinker?
Yes.
Vice Chair St. Martin?
Yes.
And Chairman Voss?
Yes.
Okay, on to the next item.
Item number 2, plot plan number PP 2017-0053.
So this project entails the architectural details for planning area 13, which I will not go into as the map did not get approved, so these architectural requirements are not in place as of yet. So my recommendation would either just be continue that off calendar or deny at this point, or just pull it from the agenda, either way.
Do we need to close the public hearing on that?
On the whole item, once we get there, yes. The second one is the Altus elevations. This is something for us to discuss still as this is an existing track map with conditions for that the architectural details come back to Planning Commission for approval. There are there is a nice presentation that the developer put together regarding this Altus community, so you can get a better idea of what they're trying to create in this community if you'd like to hear it. Okay.
I'd like to see
Want the video first or the?
Sure.
Okay. Okay. Would you like the other presentation regarding Altus?
Is
PowerPoint?
it my time yet, or should I wait to see if they want to ask questions first?
Would you like the remaining presentation, or would you just like to ask questions?
Yeah, please, presentation.
Yeah, I'd like to see the presentation.
Is this going to work?
Yes, it should still work to transfer through.
Let's see.
It looks different on my
Okay.
screen from up there. I
Okay.
apologize.
All right. Altus is under construction. For those of you that have driven up Highland Springs, you see the clubhouse, which you just saw the video of. The landscaping was fully mature. It won't be quite as dense right out of the chute, but it will ultimately get to that point. This will be our first entry into the active lifestyle community. This is a 55-plus community. We're really excited to bring this to the city. We're investing a significant amount of money into the common areas, the walking trails within Altus, the community clubhouse, the resort-style pool, and we think it's going to be a fabulous addition to the Beaumont community. I wanted to go through and show you the clubhouse area because it shows the type of architecture that we're shooting for within the Altus community. And it goes back to the Sundance specific plan relative to architectural styles. And what it says is that there's no specific architectural style required per the specific plan. Diversity is encouraged with the goal to create high-quality, human-scale, and architecturally detailed buildings. We think we've done that throughout the community. Examples of architectural styles may include elements of, but are not limited to, Spanish, colonial revival, Monterey, and Craftsman. Contemporary interpretations of these styles are also encouraged. I think it's important that in the specific plan that goes back to 2000, to the year 2000, 2001, that these styles of architecture were considered. And so we're, within the Sundance community, we haven't built many of these more contemporary styles. We've had great success in our Las Vegas division with a more contemporary style. As one of those people that could easily fall into the 55-plus active lifestyle, being 64 years old, I used to have a contemporary house. I know that a lot of my friends enjoy something that's a little bit more on edge. We're the Vietnam generation. We like things the way we like it. And if they like it, it's great. And if they don't like it, they won't buy it. Yeah. It comes down to that. It's very simple. So we're pretty excited with our styles. And I'm going to run through some of these slides. Altus already has over 1,500 people that are interested in learning more about it. It comes from basically all over the world now. We haven't really kicked off a formal marketing campaign in terms of soliciting people out to the project. That hasn't happened yet, but you can see billboard signs throughout Riverside County and some of the advertisements that we're we're doing, oh, please work.
It's switching on mine, but it's not switching on the screen. Let me see if I try. I'm sorry.
Okay, can you go to the next slide? Guess it's not our night. Okay. So we're in the middle of a lot of active communities, mainly in the desert and in Beaumont. We think we're going to be pulling people all the way from LA, Santa Barbara, down into San Diego, as well as throughout Riverside and San Bernardino counties. That's our marketing. And like I said, there's well over 1,500 people on a list. Can you go to the next slide? Thank you.
Modern technology.
At its finest. You know what?
Is it mainly the elevations that we had in our last pack?
No,
It's different.
It's slightly different, but
let me try closing it and opening it. Maybe we can just
this is painful.
I'm sorry. I'm not the usual one handling this, so I apologize.
You know, I've talked to some of the contractors that are working on our project, some of the subs, and they tell me that it's gonna be a fabulous product.
It's going to be
If we can just do it from
very
here, we
nice.
can switch between instead of going to an actual presentation.
Okay.
So you'll see all of them.
So this shows a layout. We're doing something different here, as I think you've seen previously. We're mixing lots within lots. We have 4 different lot styles, and we have 4 different model complexes coming with 3 different products per complex, and they will be intermixed throughout on the streets. There will be different housing products on different size lots. All of these, it doesn't really show that well, but there's different. Anyways, it's mixing up different styles of houses and different lot sizes on each of the streets. And this shows, good, maybe it's fixed. So this just shows in the size of the project relative to North Sundance. It starts on the south side at the Edison easement, and it runs all the way up to Brookside. Well, it runs up to, that picture shows it from the Edison easement up to Brookside. This particular property is bounded by Starlight and Highland Springs running north-south, and Cougar on the north side, and the Edison easement on the south side. It's the baby boomer market. It's 55 plus. It's
My kind of place.
There's 75 million people who fall into this category out here. Over 50% of our buyers in Sundance are first-time home buyers. In this particular case, over 70% of the buyers have been home buyers previously. What I found interesting is that 30% of the potential buyers, this will be their first time home. Shocking to me as well.
Yeah.
We call it the new next. It's a launching pad for fun in their retirement. It's not putting them out to pasture. And we'll have a full-time person arranging events. We're currently doing a number of events that include bicycle riding, going to the casinos, hiking in the mountains, going out to the desert, enjoying different venues. It's a fun place to be, and that's how it's set up. It's going to be a very active adult community. It's new center of the universe, good access to what we're going to be offering in terms of the recreation center. It's going to have all sorts of options. It's not going to have a restaurant, but it will have a number of outdoor barbecues, outdoor areas for gathering, for cooking. Pickleball, if you're familiar with pickleball, it's a big, fun game to play. There'll be 5 pickleball courts. This is what the entry looks like. You can see it taking shape off Highland Springs. The guardhouse will be as it looks once it's completed, and the landscaping and the entry will look like that. This is the viewpoint, which is what we're calling the rec center. You can see the outdoor areas. We think it's a unique architectural style. and will be readily received by the buying pool. And that's an overhead view. It shows the 3 different pools, the pickleball courts off to the left, 16,000 square feet of building. Just some more pictures. The pool area is significant. There's 3 resort style pools within the rec building. That shows current pictures that were taken within the past couple of weeks of everything that's being built. And this gets into the style of the architecture. There's 4 different architectural styles within the community, which is the matter that we're going to be discussing momentarily. There's a New Century Modern, a Modern Spanish, a California, or a Modern Californian, and a Modern Prairie. So these are different elevations of the homes. We think that most of the people looking for this type of home and this type of environment will find our architectural styles very attractive. And I'm just going to go through these quickly and we can come back to them as need be.
You say there's gonna be a mix?
Yes.
Okay.
There's going to be a mix. So each different model complex, each different lot size will have 3 different homes to
That always looks nice.
take advantage of.
Instead of cookie cutter, you've got a nice.
No, it's going to be, and the beauty of it is like most of the planning areas have a single model complex, and all the homes, even though there's 3 to 4 different elevations, these will be mixed with 3 to 4 different elevations, but on top of each other in a good way. Yeah. So we're really excited with the architecture. We've been working with consultants and architects and a lot of people familiar with the active adult community throughout the U.S., giving us input over the past 2.5 years. And this is the end result of all that input, and we think we have a really great project. And that's it.
And if I can add, the lot sizes in your staff report, as you can see, we separated them by the different lot sizes to show you the 3 lots and to point out the additional features, as was mentioned, the 2nd story option on the 55 by 105 lot. So even within there, you have 3 options, but really you almost have 6 because some of them can have a 2nd story option. I wanted to mention that we did open the public hearing and that our recommendation includes the requirement for enhanced architectural features on streets and open space areas. Since I didn't give them the staff report.
I was gonna, one thing that I failed to mention is that all of these homes, even as Rebecca mentioned, some have a 2nd story option. All of the living spaces are on the 1st floor, the main living spaces. So the 2nd floor option is really a kid's quarter, so that if grandkids come and visit or friends come to visit, they can go upstairs. There's an option either to have a bedroom and a small den or a larger den and a bathroom. And so but the living spaces, all of this is designed as single story.
Are you saying us older guys aren't gonna be going up and down the stairs too much?
Yes.
Be able to use it for storage too.
We should probably be going, we should probably, we need to be going up and down those stairs more often than not, but unfortunately, a lot of us aren't, and as a result, it becomes harder and harder to get up and down the stairs.
I have a question, if Mr. Chairman.
Please.
In your recreation center, will there be a kitchen in there?
There will be.
And let me tell you where I'm coming from. Historically, when we have issues in the past, whether we have major fires, we have earthquakes, whatever, in this type of community, and I really like this, is if you have a
Commercial kitchen.
A commercial kitchen, something where people can come together, or I think you mentioned a bunch of barbecues and stuff like that. So they'll be able to at least have a collection point.
A gathering spot, yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
But there's not a commercial kitchen.
Okay, okay.
Yeah.
But you did mention a bunch of exterior barbecues and stuff like that.
Exterior barbecues. There's interior areas that will have the ability to cook, but there's no commercial kitchen.
Oh, okay, okay,
And we're not going to have an interior restaurant.
okay. That's
there will be opportunities, there's gonna be wine lockers. So if people want to come down to the rec center and meet their friends and have a bottle of wine or cocktails, we're gonna provide mixes through a very nice vending machine as well as other refrigeration, and they can store liquor in lockers if they choose to do so, and then have direct access at the rec center for that.
Outstanding, thank you. I like that. Let's all gather for a drink.
People our age are known to have a drink or two.
Yes, sir.
People of my age are known to have a drink or two, too. Any other questions of the applicant?
No, I like.
Is it known to have a drink or two?
I like this project, I really do.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So can I close the public hearing?
I have no slips if anyone is here who'd like to speak.
Okay, so I'll close the public hearing at 7:36. Is there a motion?
Move to approve.
Motion by Commissioner St. Martin, second by Barr.
Okay. Roll call. Commissioner Barr?
Yes.
Commissioner Tinker?
Yes.
Vice Chair St. Martin?
Yes.
And Chairman Voss?
Yes.
It's a nice project.
It is.
Yeah.
And it's nice to see something north of the freeway.
I was just gonna say, yeah.
Where all us old guys live.
Okay, item number 3, Plan 2018-0140, Beaumont Plaza Sign Program.
I'll be taking this one tonight.
First one.
First one. You have before you tonight for your consideration a sign program modification. On December 12th, 2017, the Planning Commission approved the sign program for Beaumont Plaza Commercial Center in the city's commercial corridor along State Route 79 and Beaumont Avenue on the south side of Interstate 10. The complex consists of 3 buildings containing approximately 11,000 square feet of retail, service, and restaurant uses. The applicant's originally proposed sign program, which is included as Exhibit A, which established the parameters for the types of signage for the center and derived from sign codes in the Beaumont Municipal Code. The originally proposed sign program included one 75-foot tall pylon sign combined with smaller 8-foot tall monument sign and multiple wall signs and canopy signs as detailed within the exhibit. The municipal code restricts the height of pylon signs to 25 feet within a commercial complex within the general commercial zone. The additional sign height is one of the main reasons the applicant applied for a unique sign program for the center and in order to construct a sign that can be visible from Interstate 10. The applicant provided renderings of the proposed 75-foot height as part of the originally approved sign program. Upon further review of the site by the applicant, it was determined that the finished grade at the site is going to be 10 foot lower than previously thought. The applicant is requesting to increase the height of the proposed pylon sign from 75 feet to 85 feet to account for the difference in the grade, and so the sign maintains the same visibility from Interstate 10 as was previously approved. Staff is recommending that the Planning Commission hold the public hearing and approve Plan 2018-0140 Beaumont Plaza Sign Program modifications.
And I apologize.
This is not an official public hearing. It wasn't noticed as a public hearing. It should just be take testimony.
See, the applicant is here. Do we have any questions?
No.
No.
No,
Yeah, it's fine.
I think what they want to do is fine. Just say hello.
Hello?
This is the one down on Louis Estrada Drive. Right?
Yeah.
Yes, correct.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, you gotta show off and show what's there, so, yeah.
Yeah.
So we just
So I'll take public testimony, but there's no,
None. I'll put
None,
none.
so-
Yep.
I need to close public testimony?
No.
Okay.
Move to approve.
I'll second it.
Roll call vote.
Commissioner Barr?
Yes.
Commissioner Tinker?
Yes.
Commissioner Vice Chair St. Martin?
Yes.
And Chairman Voss?
Yes.
It'd be a little difficult to have a sign way down in that hole, wouldn't it?
Too bad you had to wait through the rest of that, but,
Interesting. Bet it was.
see, we're not always that easy.
Are there any development director comments?
I have none for today.
Thank you. I'll adjourn the planning commission meeting at 7:40.
She's going to a conference.